Wishing you a very good evening, and we can straight away start the program. So we'll start with a blank, right? Because this program is basically based on NLP principles and practices. We'll not be talking too much about NLP. We'll be straight away going into the applications aspects of NLP. So that's how I have designed this program. I have designed this program totally based on its application and value creation. Right? There are so much frameworks about NLP, so much I would say content, so much books about NLP. So I felt that if we can choose to focus on certain very specific application aspects, then that would be useful for the participants. So with that in mind, I have designed this program. We'll straight away start with the program first. So once again, right, welcome to this webinar. This webinar is based on applied NLP principles and practices. So I would request you to please keep your audio muted so that we could be free of any noise distractions. If you really want to ask me any questions, you can unmute and ask the questions. We can also choose to have a dedicated question and answer session at the end of the program. So please keep your audio muted. We'll have a dedicated question and answer session at the end. So once again, I thank you for your presence and time. It would show that you are really interested in your own growth and development, because NLP attracts people who are really focusing on their own learning and development. And this webinar can really help you in this particular objective. So quickly, for those of you who do not know me, who am I? I'm an engineer turned trainer and coach. I'm basically a mechanical engineer. I was happy being an engineer. I was acknowledged being a good engineer. But still, there was this passion within me with respect to trying to understand the human mind, what makes people tick, what is driving their behavior. So, some 11 years before I quit my job and started my own corporate training organization by the name Excel HR. From then on, we are doing lots of training programs pan India. Personally, I have around 15 years of corporate training experience. I have done more than 1,000 days of corporate training programs. Right, it could be actually more than 1,200. And I do have more than 1,300 hours of group coaching and one-to-one coaching experiences. Because the push of NLP is entrepreneurial in nature, so it could keep you pushing to break your own limits. I find coaching to be very, very effective, particularly reaching people at their model of the world and trying to create choices for them, and also help them build more self-awareness. So in that process, I am more and more into coaching these days, and that is where I find a bigger level of satisfaction for me. So learn, apply, test, and teach from experience has been my philosophy. I continuously keep learning NLP because NLP is actually exploding in nature. Lots of frameworks, lots of content, lots of new insights, lots of new perspectives from trainers all over and contributors all over keep coming in and enriching the field of NLP. So there is a lot of scope for us to keep continuously learning and also teaching. So that's what I do. I've been fascinated with NLP models and frameworks because NLP is not about just advising. We have a very structured framework which could be more useful for people who really want to learn and grow. And based on that particular frameworks, right, we actually facilitate the concept of learning and change and transformation. So I've been really fascinated with NLP model because NLP is all about it's from results to theory, right? It's not the other way around. It's from results to theory. NLP looks around, see what is working well, and then trying to go into the process of how is that excellence possible, and then create frameworks from that. So it could be very generative in nature. It could be suitable for people from different backgrounds. So the frameworks are fantastic. I love the frameworks, and it's very useful for us to be guided by the frameworks, have the frameworks as a benchmark, and then start working around the framework for us to really create very powerful transformations in our life. So I'm an author of 4 books. I'm interested in haiku writing as an experiment in self-awareness. So that's about me, my mission. I help individuals, executives, and entrepreneurs. So these are the 3 buckets, right? 3 big chunks in my business. I work with individuals at a one-to-one level. I work with executives and I work with entrepreneurs and help them create breakthroughs in their life, right? What has helped us to come up to this level may not help us to go to the next level, right? That would happen more or less, right, for many people around. So try to understand that and then try to create breakthroughs, right? It could be just a glass ceiling, a small limiting belief. It's just a small insight, right, could help us really break the glass ceiling and then go ahead. So that's how I do, and I help create breakthroughs by challenging their existing thinking processes and limiting belief systems. About the limiting belief systems, we'll see very deep in this webinar. I also help them to access their own inner resources. NLP believes people already have all the resources they need. People need not be fixed. People need not be repaired. Right? They are mature and they can make their own very powerful choices. So facilitation is the key, right? Advising is not the key with respect to NLP, right? Because NLP, right, one statistic says that 95% of advices are not followed. Right? So only when the client himself owns that particular advice, transformation is possible. So NLP focuses on helping the client generate choices and then help him choose a choice with lots of thought processes involved. We'll also see about that as we go down the line. And of course, right, a commitment to execution is possible only when the client owns that particular advice which has come from his own self. As a coaching partner, I help them to gently but firmly move out of their comfort zones and explore their full potential. Right? I believe the best business in the world is the business of working on ourselves. The more we are able to work on ourselves, the more value we are able to create for the world at large and people in particular. So in that sense, NLP would urge you to keep on working on yourself, becoming a better and better version of yourself, and that is what I help clients do. My creed based on NLP, right, is about awareness. Awareness is the foundation for change. Without awareness, it will be very difficult for us to change. So awareness and freedom. NLP is all about freedom. One of the definitions of NLP is something which I really like. NLP is our ability to create more choices. The more choices we are able to create, the more free we are. So my perspective would be to create more of awareness, and from that awareness, our ability to create more choices. And ultimately, the purpose, right? What do we do this for? What makes us get through this process which is called as life, this phenomenon which is called as life? What do we do? Why do we do what we do? So bringing in more awareness and the direction and the vision, which is enabled by the purpose. So these three things are my creed. I tend to strive to operate based on these foundational principles. So what is NLP? Quickly, right? I'll not be talking too much about NLP. Most of you would be familiar with NLP. Anyhow, right? For those who are not familiar, just touch the basics. So NLP refers to, right, neuro-linguistic programming. It's an expanded form of NLP, where neuro refers to the brain and nervous system, the mental pathways of our five senses by which we see, hear, feel, taste, and smell. So our central nervous system is the basis of all our experiences. We experience the world through our five senses. Right? I'm sure everyone would agree with that, right? The majority of our contact points with the world, how we look at the world, right? How we have an experience of what is happening around us is made possible, is being enabled by our nervous system. So nervous system is the base of all our experiences. That's what the neuro represents, particularly the central nervous system. And then what do we do with the experiences? We try and use our language, right? Human beings are very good at language, right? The language centers of the brain have been powerfully developed, right? One insight from the neurology is that, right, the brain has been ready for language even more than 1.5 lakh years before, right? So B.S. Ramchandra in his book Telltale Brain talks about that. He talks about the brain, right, being already ready even before 1.5 lakh years before for language to happen. So that's really phenomenal, right? The linguistic ability of a human being. Considering the fact that we have been talking using language only for the last 10,000 years. That's another insight which is generally being talked about. So for the last 10,000 years, maybe we have been moving into something of a structured language, which become very powerful, very enriched, maybe a few thousand years before. So those linguistic patterns which really help us to give a very strong meaning to the experiences that we go through in this phenomenon called as life. We use language to interpret our experiences, and all the sensory information is giving meaning through machines. We are by nature meaning-making machines, right? We always try to create a meaning. Without a meaning, right, we could feel the emptiness within us, and we try and fill that emptiness with the meaning that we choose to create for our experiences based on our linguistic abilities. So language is the medium of thinking, right? Of course, there could be some visual thinkers, but predominantly we use language for thinking. Moving further is the programming part, is how we organize and sequence our actions to achieve specific results, and this is based on the meaning which we give to experiences. Our actions and behavior are simply habitual programs designed to get some results, right? Always our behaviors are driven towards results. We do something because we expect specific results out of that. So in a nutshell, in a single slide, I can say that the neuro part is experience, the linguistic is the meaning part, and programming is the behavior part. So NLP would say, right, do not fight with experience. Treat experience as neutral, because suffering is defined as argument with reality. So the more simply we wish to have that experience away, may not be really useful. It could increase our levels and intensity of suffering. So treating the experience as neutral, right? Even I remember the Shakespeare's quote, "Nothing is good or bad. Our thinking makes it so. Nothing is good or bad in this world. Our thinking makes it so." So based on that, right, if we can choose to look at experience as something neutral and try and give a better meaning, automatically the better behavior comes, and the better behavior gives us a better experience. So that is the philosophy of NLP in a nutshell, as I understand it. So my specific perspectives about NLP brings unconscious processes into conscious awareness. That, I think, is one of the biggest benefits of NLP, right? Simply being instead of being simply robotic, right? Being reactive, not being aware of our own drives, not being aware of our own value system and belief systems. Simply like, right, having like being a machine which is having buttons all over. And people could become very familiar which button, if I push, what will happen. We might become very predictable in nature. So instead of being in that state where we are driven by unconscious drives and desires, we can choose to become aware of what is that is making me do this behavior. That is where we bring the unconscious processes into conscious awareness, and that creates empowerment. So NLP helps an individual to set very strong and clear goals. I believe the central nervous system is basically goal-seeking in nature. We always, right, have goals. At a small chunk level, right, even taking the next breath is an unconscious goal. So with so much potential, with linguistic patterns, with such a well-developed brain, right, we always seek targets. And with having very strong concepts of past and the future, and being future-driven, and having learnings from the past, right, we always have expectations. We have dreams and desires, goals. But the quality of the goals does matter, and NLP helps an individual to set up very strong and clear goals. Very strong and clear goals build better relationships. That is another very fantastic area of NLP. Right? So howsoever an individual might be talented, still he needs to operate in a team setting. He needs to have support of people. So how to build better relationship, NLP frameworks are very fantastic. And how to really observe more, how to really listen more. I personally believe observation is listening. How to listen more deeply. And one important aspect NLP would focus on is our ability to come up with behaviors which suit the context. If something is not working, do something else. The behavior flexibility concept of NLP. So that is one area which I help. It generally helps both at a self-coaching level and when you coach others. When you choose to coach others, how to pace, how to lead, how to motivate people, and how to coach people. I firmly believe leadership, one of the most important leadership skills that is emerging is the ability to coach the next line. So that the leaders, right, can very powerfully delegate and use more of their time for growing the organization or for deciding the direction of the organization. Right, so leadership has more of a futuristic element into that, and that may not be applicable. That may not be possible if the leaders, right, get stuck with the routines, get stuck in operations. So you might also have heard the fact that delegation could be a big challenge for many managers in that sense, right? How do you actually delegate? That involves, I personally believe, a big chunk of our ability to coach people. So NLP has very strong coaching frameworks which really help people to coach and then have more free time so that they can choose to focus more about the teams and organizations with respect to the futuristic possibilities. So the four major problems, that's about it, right? We'll straight away dive into the topic today. Four major problems that keep people stuck. That's what I want to talk about today. So this is based on my coaching and training programs, right? This is also based on the testimonials which I got from participants after a few months and after some time, even maybe some years of after my training programs. I chose to look at, right? I chose to connect with a few customers of mine, and then I was able to understand how has my programs have really helped them, and what evolved was this particular program, which I can understand, which I have designed based on the benefits which my clients have been able to get. So in that sense, I think it's very specific in nature. I have tried to understand what is really working, and then I have designed this program on what is really working and helping my clients. So we shall see them one by one. We shall also discuss the solutions about it, not necessarily it's a problem frame, it's also about the outcome frame. So one big problem which I find which keep people stuck in their positions. Any guess? Can you type in the chat box? Please type in the chat box. Any guess? What is the number one problem which keep people stuck?
Time management.
Time management, okay. Anything else, friends? Lack of confidence, listening, inaction, okay. Our own ego. Great. Thank you. Right. Thank you for sharing your perspectives. Right. Based on my own personal experience, right, I find that the number one problem that keep people stuck in their current position is lack of clarity. Right. In other words, confusion. In other words, not really knowing what is that I really want. Right. When people are not clear about where they should be moving towards, in which direction they need to take action, that really puts them at a very stuck position. Generally, people are very clear about what is that they don't want, but they may not be very clear about what is that they want. Based on my own experiences, it takes around 2 to 3 sessions for us to really clearly construct a very well-formed outcome. That's how we design that. That's how we define a very clear goal, a well-formed outcome. So it takes around 2 to 3 sessions, right, for some of my clients to really understand what is that they really want in life. One of my mentors will say, if God really comes in front of you and ask you, what is it you want? I have just 30 seconds for you. Many of us may not be able to really tell what is it we really want. Whereas we might be very clear about what is it we don't want, because in our conscious awareness, we always trying to move. Most of the times we may be trying to move away from what is that we don't want. We may not be really clear, right? We talk about goals, but when we really go deep and try to understand what is it the person want, then there could be lots of ambiguities. I'll come up with a few more examples. Take the example of a runner, right? Let's just consider the case of a runner. Yeah. What can make him run fast? We have a case of a runner. Let's take the case of a runner. And if you can choose to ask him this question, what would make him run faster? So one of the answers could be a pot of gold, right? A pot of gold kept at the end, right? At the end of the running track, the person can run faster. The other would be a mad dog, right? Which would be running behind him, trying to have a pound of flesh. So these are the two things that could make a person run faster. Mad dog or pot of gold, that is the question. So while mad dog could motivate you very powerfully, when a mad dog chases, right, we don't know lots of where we don't know where we could get that energy. Lots of nervous energy could be just right garnered in a few seconds. The person may be able to dive over a few drainages, climb over a compound, and then jump away. That would be very much possible in a few seconds, without himself knowing aware where does he get that energy from and what is the strategy. Without any conscious awareness, he may choose to jump over a few drainages, jump over a compound and go ahead. He may not be able to do that consciously. So that much amount of energy and motivation could come from a mad dog, which we call it as a pain principle. The pain could really motivate us, so powerful. I remember one interesting anecdote, right? It seems there was this guy who was having a walk around and he heard a dog, right, howling nearby. He went to investigate and he found a dog and a man sitting in a chair. The man was sitting in a chair, the dog was nearby and sitting on its right hind legs. And the dog was continuously howling. The pain was very vivid. And then this person was walking, chose to ask this person who was sitting in the chair, why is the dog howling? And the person sitting in the chair said the dog is sitting on a thorn. It was sitting on a thorn. And then this person was walking asked, why doesn't he move? And with a wide smile, the person sitting on the chair said, maybe the pain is not sufficient enough. So something we do have a tendency to tolerate something which we have a tendency to tolerate many things. And remember, some things you are able to tolerate, you may not be able to change. So the mad dog could be something very powerful. It could give you huge amounts of motivation, but a pot of gold gives you direction and purpose. So with respect to my clients I have faced, right, they have lots of pain points, lots and lots of pain points. They're very, I would say, motivated to move ahead. But what is deriving, what is making them, right, not actually move towards, take consecutive action, not not getting stuck, start getting their hands dirty, start taking massive action, is that they are not very clear about the direction and purpose. It also helps you, right, once you get the direction, right, it also helps you deal with the discomfort in the path. For example, right, a favorite actor of ours, his movie comes and we have a tendency to have a ticket for the first day first show. So there is a very strong moving towards, there is a very strong pot of gold. So the person could bear so many pains. He has to go and stand in the queue even before night, spend so much time in the queue, and still he is able to get that particular ticket. He is able to bear all these pains because he has a very strong moving towards goal. He is motivated by a pot of gold. And remember, when you are simply running away from a mad dog, you could end elsewhere also. You do not know where to run. You could also end up with a tiger. That is also a possibility available. So having a healthy balance, right? We need to get motivated. We need to, right? The pain could motivate us. We need to have a very strong motivation force driving us, but at the same time, we also need to have a generic purpose, a direction. So having a healthy balance between the mad dog and the pot of the gold is the key, and I find that is the solution that is attained. To sum it up, I would say that most of the people are strongly motivated by the mad dog, but they may not have the pot of gold in their eyesight. So it takes normally 2 to 3 coaching sessions to help them identify and get clear about what is that pot of gold. Right? This is based on my own experience. So how to deal with confusion? The answer is well-formed outcomes. A long-term well-formed outcome need to be based on your passion, right? If you could, right, start working on what you are really passionate about, I think that could be constituted as a very good fortune. So how do you identify your passion? The question is, what are you inspired with? And is that inspiration sustained? Right? It's not simply a daydream. It's not just a fad which comes and goes. Is that passion is being sustained over a period of time? And are you having the skill sets? And what is your deep driving desire? Right? If you can have a very deep dive about that, you're able to really understand that what are you really passionate about? Does that passion comes from a sustained inspiration? Are you able to develop the competencies? Are you able to develop the skill sets much easily? Because something in a domain which we are not really able to be passionate about, which we know, which are not inspired about, then developing the skill sets could be an uphill task. The learning curve could be very, very steep. So based on, there are lots of feedbacks available. So the learning curve is very steep, very steep. We need to put in too much of effort to learn something, then we can understand that we are not really passionate about it. And everything going very deep down, deep down, right? We can try and work with our deep driving desire. If you learn to right, listen to the little inner voice within, the unconscious voice within, which most of the time we might choose to ignore because of the conscious clutter that is happening in our conscious minds. The little voice that is deep within us, we can choose to listen to that, right? Then we'll be able to find a sense of right direction and purpose, and that's what is our pot of gold. So well-formed outcome should answer these questions thoroughly. So what is that you really want? So this question comes to you again and again in NLP frameworks. What is that you want? What is it you really want? Are you sure is that you want? Because NLP doesn't want you to reach the goal and then have some regrets about it. Is it a moving away or a moving towards goal? Is it driven? Is a goal set by a mad dog that is chasing, or is it towards a pot of gold inside? Or is there a healthy balance between these two? The next question is internally reference or externally reference. This is a very important question because NLP believes you can't set goal for others. And you can't really passionately work for goals of someone else. Unless and otherwise your goals are aligned with a greater element, like an organization, like a team, then the magic doesn't function. We can't simply work for someone else's goals. We need to have an alignment with a greater entity like a team or organization that should be aligned with our own goals. So there is a question of how much are you aligned with, or your internal desires or internal goals aligned with your external purposes, external goals set by a bigger organization or a bigger team. Specific in terms of VAK. So this is something very interesting. How do you know that you have achieved a goal? After you have achieved a goal, what is that you will see, what is that you will hear, and what is that you will feel? Are you very clear about that? So this is a very important evidence procedure to help us understand, yes, we have a pot of gold inside and we can take constructive, positive action moving towards that. And then the ecology check is again a very important aspect of NLP. Because unless I have changed in some way, I wouldn't have reached the goal. If I reach the goal, I should have changed in some way. Since I'm not able to change, I'm not able to reach my goal. As simple as that. So when I reach the goal, definitely I could have changed in some way. And is that okay with you? Because when I have changed, something which is positive in my current environment could also have changed. We need to become aware of it. For example, right, a person who is very ambitious, right, has very ambitious goals, could be traveling a lot, and he need to have some compromise on his family time. Would that be okay? Would he have built-in rapport with his family members so that they are able to support him in this particular ambitious goal drive of his? All these questions do matter. And if at all I have something positive in my current environment, what are the strategies which can help me preserve those positive elements even after I have reached my goal? The problem too is absolutely right, lack of confidence, right? I do have a pot of gold inside, I'm moving towards that, but still at times I feel confident, at times I don't feel confident. So friends, let me know what makes us lose confidence quickly. What makes us lose confidence? You can just type it in the chat box also. Failures. Okay. Any other perspective? Criticism from others. Great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Lack of instant results, right? The immediate gratification, right? If I don't get the results immediately, right, then I lose confidence. Fantastic. Thank you. Thanks for your sharing. So we can go one level deeper and try and ask this question: where does the lack of confidence come from? The lack of confidence actually comes from our belief systems. The height of our goals depend on our height of our beliefs, right? Beliefs are like a thermostat. They would allow us to set goals only based on their, I would say, the structure. We will not be able to set a goal which is higher than our belief systems. Our belief systems may not allow us to do that. So we need to understand that at a conscious level, we may set a very powerful goal, but at an unconscious, because most of the time beliefs are partly conscious, beliefs are partly unconscious. And we are really stuck, right, in very confused states. The belief system will be trapped deep down. We may not be able to become aware of our belief systems, which help us take consecutive action. So the height of our goals depend on our height of our belief system. We may not be able to set a goal beyond our belief system. These are called as our limiting beliefs, right? How do we deal with our limiting beliefs is a question. So we try to take a deep dive and ask this question. So what is a belief? So belief, before we go into the belief, let us look at two anecdotes that you might have heard. One of these two anecdotes is something which is very familiar with in personal development circles, and the other maybe not so much. So we'll quickly look at these two anecdotes to understand the structure of a belief. Right? It is very important for us to understand the structure of a belief. How is the belief formed and how is the belief held? The story of Roger Bannister, I'm sure you have heard this. We'll quickly look at it, the 4-minute mile concept, right? People were believing that for a runner to run the 4-minute mile, a mile within 4 minutes was hugely impossible. Until 1954, 6th May. So in Oxford, one person, the athlete named Roger Bannister, ran the 4-minute mile. It is said that he ran the mile in 3 minutes and 59.4 seconds. The record, the most important thing is the record lasted for 46 days. That is something very important for us to understand. 20 others were able to do it in the next year. A feat which was thought impossible for tens of years, and suddenly was being broken by people quickly. Lots of people, 20 other people were able to do it in the next year. And now it is something very common among athletes. So this is one thing, right? You can understand that there was a structure of a belief that made people to believe that it's not possible to run the 4-minute mile. And suddenly one person does that and the structure of the belief is taken for a task. The structure breaks down and people start believing. NLP talks about if one person does it, it is possible for another person to do it. Because all of us have the same central nervous system. We have the same hardware. The difference is in the software. And belief is a part of the software. One other thing which I really love, this anecdote, right? It really inspires me. Is a story of George Dantzig. He was a mathematician. He was actually teaching in the University of California in 1940. It's a very, very inspiring, particularly for me. I was able to get lots of insight from this. This based on the belief systems. And here is a story. So he was very interested in mathematics and he was studying in the University of California, and he was very passionate towards mathematics and wouldn't miss a mathematics lecture. But one day, maybe due to some other circumstances, he was very late for a mathematics class. They said that he was late for around a few minutes, maybe 20-30 minutes, he was late. And this mathematics professor had a particular habit of giving assignments. Right, he would write the assignments in the board and then ask the students to work on it. So as George went into the class and then sat in the bench, he looked at the board and he found 2 problems written on the board. So he thought that the assignments have been given, took a note of them, attended the class, and when the class was over, he wanted to finish the questions, answer those questions as quickly as possible. Because it was a weekend, he wanted to go to his home place. So he went to the library and started working on those 2 questions, and to his surprise, he found it to be more difficult than something normal. But he consistently started working on it, and it is said that he worked through night and he was able to finish those questions, answering those questions near dawn. And then he put those two answer sheets in an envelope, wrote his professor's name on that, put it in his post box, and then went to his home place. And then Monday morning, all hell looped. It is said that all hell broke loose in the university. Everyone was searching for George Dantzig. And it is said that a car has been sent to his home place, and he was brought from his home place to the university. And as soon as he came out of the car, the mathematics professor hugged him and congratulated him and saying that, how did you achieve this feat? Honestly, George Dantzig didn't know what was happening. And he said, I'm not sure, sir. What is that you were appreciating me? And then the professor said there were these two assignments, these two questions which you were able to answer. What about that? George asked. I did talk about those two questions, those two problems. I did talk about them. Didn't you hear that in my class? And John said, sorry, sir, I was late for your class. And by the time I came in, you had already written those questions. And then the professor explained. Those two problems were there in the statistical field unsolved for decades. Almost for a century, they were unsolved. Brilliant minds have been working on those two problems, but still those two problems have not been able to be solved. And since George didn't know these were two problems that were remaining unsolved for decades, if he had known that, particularly other students in this class would have known that, and I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have tried to answer that. So that is what, dear friends, is a belief system. Our belief systems helps us set goals, and our quality of the goals depends on our quality of our belief systems. So the problems, and then he went on to write a simplex algorithms, and the Mathematical Programming Society created a George B. Dantzig Prize. He was able to contribute very much to the field of mathematics. So what is a belief? A belief is a generalization. Taking one experience from the past and projecting into the future. A person who is not afraid of dogs is being bitten by one dog, and then the next time he sees any dog, he becomes afraid. So taking one experience from the past and projecting into the future, that is the structure of the belief system. It is said that 3 experiences will be sufficient to form a belief system, particularly in young minds. That is why we need to be very careful when we deal with young people. Right? If a very young child is given 3 feedbacks, you are not good for public speaking, you are not good for public speaking, you are not good for public speaking, you can't do that, you can't do that. So 3 experiences are sufficient to form an unuseful belief system. And very strong generalization can become phobias. A person gets caught in a lift once, that is a very traumatic experience. That could create claustrophobia. So very strong generalization, very strong beliefs become phobias. So that is the framework of a belief system. How to deal with beliefs, understand that beliefs are based on past experiences and need not be true. That is the biggest distinction we need to make. My belief need not be true. But at some deeper level, we become very convinced about our belief systems, and we consider or become very convinced that my belief system is my ultimate truth. But the moment we understand that my beliefs need not be truth, it has been based on my past experiences to become important. There are no right or wrong beliefs. There are only useful or not useful beliefs. The belief I am a good communicator and the belief that I am not a good communicator, both are not really true. They may be true in certain contexts, but they need not be necessarily true always. But the more the person believes them, the more they appear true for him. So replacing unuseful belief systems with useful belief systems is a real, very empowering framework of NLP. How do we do that? Accessing past positive experiences and deeply relaxed trance states and future-facing them into the future is the real key. If a person comes to me and says, I'm not confident, that need not necessarily be true. There may be so many experiences in his past in which he was really confident, but the question is he knows what is confidence. He knows how to be confident, but he's not able to access that confidence at a certain context. So we'll do a very small activity, maybe 2 to 3 minutes activity. I just want you to just go through this activity to understand the power of this particular framework, the power of this particular technique. I just want you to choose. We'll work with confidence. I just want you to choose one instant in which we are really confident. Maybe it's a presentation that you did, or a fantastic feedback from your past, from your clients. I just want you to really choose one particular event that took place in your past. I'm sure all of us will be having such events. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come to this position. I just want you to choose one experience. You were so good that you really felt confident. Maybe you achieved something. You achieved a very fantastic appreciation. Or maybe you got a fantastic feedback from your clients. I just want you to choose a particular experience. I just want you to go through this process. You might have gone through processes like this, but I still want you to be curious to use the next 2 minutes for going through this process. So I would want you to just sit straight after choosing a particular experience, a very specific particular experience, in which you are really feeling very good, feeling very confident about. Choose a particular experience. And then please sit straight in your chairs. Take a deep breath. And as you take a deep breath, hold it for a few seconds, and then as you exhale, gently relax, close your eyes, keep your eyes closed. Breathe normally, watch it. Since you are here, I just want you to be curious to allow these next 2 minutes to investigate this process with an open mind. And as you listen to my voice, you can choose to become much more relaxed. You already know what is relaxation. And you can choose to relax in whatever way that you know. And you can choose to relax in whatever way that you find it possible. Just throw away all predefined notions and definitions of what is relaxation. Choose to relax in whatever way you know. And remember, you need not be perfect in the state of relaxation. Just relax. One thing you can choose to do is just give your entire weight to the chair in which you are sitting. Let the chair bear with weight. That is what its purpose is for. That's what it is there for. Allow your weight to be transferred to the chair. Just bring your attention on your breathing, and for each breath, choose to relax deeper and deeper, whatever relaxation means to you. It need not be perfect. It's okay. I just want you to become aware as you are going through this process of listening to my voice and this process of relaxing yourself more and more deeply. I just want you to become aware of how nice a feeling of relaxation is. Take one more deep, long breath, hold it for 2 seconds, and then exhale. And as you exhale, relax 10 times deeper. And in this relaxed position, just choose to focus on that positive memory which you had in its entirety. See what you saw, hear what you heard, and feel what you felt. Just put up yourself comfortably in the middle of that particular experience. Just go through that experience as though it is happening right now. Be with that experience. See what you saw, hear what you heard, and feel what you felt. As though it is happening right now. Now just focus on the feeling of confidence. How great it was. How nice it was. How wonderful it was. Just soak yourself in that particular emotion of being confident and allow that feeling of confidence to spread over your entire body, your entire being, whatever that means. allow that feeling of confidence to grow because it is already there within you, in your consciousness, in your awareness. You can choose to grow it, you can choose to increase it, you can choose to spread it over an entire body and saturate your entire body in being the feeling of confidence. Whatever that means to you. Now, having felt such a wonderful level of confidence, I just want you to future pace, look into the future and see yourself in a context where you are using this confidence so easily and effortlessly. Let your unconscious pick up a context and see yourself using this fantastic levels of confidence with ease and comfort. See yourself as vividly as possible in the context chosen by your unconsciousness and having these levels of confidence and using that resources of confidence to whatever you need to do in that context easily and effortlessly. Just enjoy. And as you enjoy doing that, bring your thumb and forefinger together. Bring your thumb and forefinger together to anchor this in your awareness. To anchor this in your mind. To anchor this in your conscious and unconscious minds. Your ability to access confidence and act on that confidence in whatever situation that you choose. Allow your unconscious, give permission to your unconscious, give permission to your unconscious to access this level of confidence and even better level of confidence whenever and wherever it is required. Give permission to your unconscious to access and apply these levels of confidence whenever and wherever it is required. Okay, friends, gently you can open your eyes, feeling wonderful and refreshed than before. So quickly, let me know how was the experience, small feedback. You can type in the chat box if you want, or you can unmute yourself and talk about this experience. Okay. You want, you can unmute. Thank you, right? So gives great confidence. Okay, right, thank you. So I just wanted to keep testing on that, right? Already we have the resources that we need. I just want you to focus on this. Already we have the resources we need. Without exhibiting confidence, we wouldn't have achieved this level of success. Already, I personally believe already we are successful. And without being confident at some level, we wouldn't have been able to reach this level of success. I just want you to internalize this. The question is, am I able to access confidence at different levels? And I feel it's very important. And if you can just bring this insight within yourself and choose to have the belief that I can access this particular confidence whenever and wherever I want, you become more relaxed, more spontaneous. Okay, thank you. We'll move further. It is said the unconscious mind. The entire premise is based on that this particular insight that is being generally talked about. It is said that the unconscious mind does not know the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined experience. Honestly, I believe in that. The unconscious mind couldn't know the difference, whether it is a real happening experience or it a vividly imagined experience. So using this premise, we'll be able to access unconscious resources that we do have, that we have been exhibiting in the past, and then choose to access them whenever and wherever we want. So using affirmations, right, I'm sure you would be able to do that. That is one another powerful way to retrain our belief systems, reprogram our belief systems. Using present continuously worded affirmations with positively evoked emotions, there are 4 or 5 ways in which you can change beliefs, right? There are in fact multiple ways, of which I choose to teach 2 or 3 ways, right, in my NLP training programs. So one another way which I choose to teach is usage of affirmations. Identify an unuseful belief and develop a U-turn statement. This is very important. I'll give the structure of this particular technique. Let's say a person has a belief that I cannot speak well in public. So that is an unuseful belief to have. Not necessarily every leader must be a good speaker. Not necessarily. I do accept that. But still, right, our ability to express our points of view, our ability to express, I would say, our dreams and desires to our followers, right, is a pretty important part of a leader. So not necessarily in the context of giving a big public speech, our ability to express ourselves more convincingly could be a very, very useful behavior. So if a person has an unuseful belief, a simple example is I'm not able to speak in public. What is the U-turn statement? The U-turn statement is moving towards I am a good public speaker could be a U-turn statement. And using the present continuous, right? Because when you affirm to yourself, I am a good public speaker, the conscious part of your mind, the logical part of your mind will ask you, where is evidence? So in order to bypass, in order to slightly tame, reduce the resistance of the conscious part, you can use the present continuous. I am becoming a better and better communicator every day. I am becoming the present continuous. When you use ing, right, we dilute the resistance of the logical part of our mind, which seeks evidence. Remember, we have a logical part of our mind which says that show me evidence, I'll believe. And there is a creative and imaginative part in our mind which says I'll first believe and then look for evidence. Using the affirmation statement multiple times, very importantly with a positive feel, right? The affirmation become mechanical, right? They wouldn't have much of a effect, right? With the associated positive feel, right? That would really help us change our belief system. In fact, remember our belief system is based on so many statements, the negative statements that we have been hearing. And the negative statements which we ourselves come to believe and then use those negative statements for our own selves, the language part. So having a U-turn statement, a very positive U-turn statement with a present continuous tense into that would help us create very powerful ways of letting go of negative beliefs and moving towards very positive belief frameworks, which would be really useful to us. The third problem, right, I personally find is lack of mood management, right? I have a very clear goal. I know, right, I am confident enough. I know, I believe that I have the resources, but still, my mood keeps on changing. That is one common problem which comes to me. Sometimes I feel very motivated, but sometimes I feel so depressed, so disappointed. I don't even want to, right, take an effort. Just be with my routines. And these goals are really, right, frustrating for me. That is one another problem that comes to me again and again. So keeping ourselves in positive mindset as much as possible would be the key. How do we do that? Some basic insights about this NLP way of emotional intelligence. Understanding that there are no bad emotions or even good emotions. One of the biggest problems that we can make is labeling emotions as good or bad. All emotions are our friends, even disappointment would be our friends. They are trying to communicate with us. They have a message for us. That is the NLP way to look at emotions. Emotions are there in our minds for a reason. They are trying to communicate something to us. If we peel off one layer, the superficial layer, and take a look in, we call it as an unpacking an emotion. If you are able to go beyond, look behind a particular emotion, trying to understand what is that emotion trying to communicate, then it could be a treasure trove for us. For example, anger can mean your value system has been violated by someone else. Guilt can mean that your value system has been violated by yourself. That is what the emotion of anger and guilt could be trying to communicate. Your value system is being violated. Unless we become very aware, without even knowing what is that value system that is being violated, we tend to become angry. We also tend to become very guilty. But we need to become very aware which specific value system is violated, in what specific way that value system has been violated. Once we go into that, that is called as a re-examining the value system, because there could be some values which have been very dear to us in the past, which could have been, right, which are very dear to us, we have been holding high. But when we have a very deep look at it, we can understand that there is a possibility that we can understand that that value system is no more serving me. This could be a very powerful insight. The value system which have been useful to my past is now it's not serving me. So it's time for me to take a very close look at my value system and then rearrange the value system with respect to my goal setting process. So re-examining the value system and creating more thought out choices, very, very important ability to create more choices, more rearrangement in terms of value system can be the key when dealing with unuseful or negative emotions. So dealing with difficult moods, awareness is the key. NLP talks about the ability to disassociate. You might have heard this word. Disassociation is the ability to observe ourselves from a third position. I believe human beings are the only species, right, as far as I know, on earth to do that. If a sparrow looks at its own image in a mirror, it will think it is another sparrow and start picking that. You might have seen that. Maybe over a period of time, it could understand that it's its own image. But generally, at a fundamental level, at a base level, human beings do have the ability and the faculty, I would say the means to observe themselves. It's called as a meta-observation. We can become aware of our own thinking, we can become aware of our own feelings, meta-thinking, meta-feeling, and we can choose to look at our own thinking process. How do we think? Become aware of our own thinking, which may not be possible, right, at a fundamental level for other species. So first question is from your own perspective. How do you look at a challenge? From your own perspective, that's your first position. The second position is how another person in your team or your family looks at the problem. Generally, we call it as a stepping into the other person's shoes. So the second position is a useful position for empathizing with others and for conflict solving, where you can create multiple choices which are good for both. But a very important third position is like a fly on the wall position where you observe yourself, maybe getting disappointed, maybe getting depressed, maybe getting angry, maybe getting guilty, maybe becoming afraid. When you are in the moment, when you are associated, the emotions have control over you. You are too much into the emotions. We cannot become very aware. But the moment we choose to disassociate, very much possible. Even now, at a mental level, you can just step out of yourself, see yourself sitting on the chair and listening to this webinar. That is very much possible for you. So when you're able to go to this fly on the wall, the third position, you are choose to observe yourself, what happens is you get a better grip over your emotions. You can choose to look at yourself as a third person, full of potential, but going through these challenges. Since the same person is you can empathize with the person and you can choose to advise him very powerfully. Remember, that is where the most useful advices come from ourselves. So in my training and coaching programs, I do this. I ask the person to disassociate from himself or herself as he or she is sharing the problem. When a person is talking about the problem, mostly they are associated. And they wouldn't have any choices. They would be a victim. How do we define a victim? A victim is a person who doesn't have choice. So when they talk about a problem, mostly they are highly associated with the problem and they lack choices. They tend to do whatever they have been doing so far in dealing with the problems. So I consciously ask them to even step out of the chair physically And then look at the chair and visualize themselves, see themselves sitting in the chair a few moments before, talking about the problem. I ask them to completely observe them and then ask them to advise this person who was sitting in the chair a few moments before. And believe me, miracles takes place. Because you are the best person to judge yourself. No other person can do that. You are the best person who knows completely about yourself. No other person can know yourself as completely as you can. So you are the best judge. You are in the best position to advise yourself. And when you do that, you own your own advice. And when you own your advice, you start acting on your advices. That is the structure of this concept of disassociation. It helps you to create a gap between the stimulus and response. Right? We talk about creating a gap in which we can create so many choices. Otherwise, it would simply be, I would say, very repetitive in nature, being driven by our unconscious thought patterns and belief systems. It helps you to create awareness and create more choices. But please do note that while disassociation is useful, life takes place in an associated state. I wouldn't really want you to be disassociated when you're having an ice cream, because life happens. You enjoy life in an associated position. Maybe before you go out, reach out for the second ice cream, you can disassociate yourself and create a choice for you. Remember, life takes place in an associated state. So again, having a healthy balance, particularly when we go through challenges, when we go through disempowered state, if you are able to disassociate and create more chances for ourselves, that could be a fantastic framework where you can self-coach yourself in a very, very effective way. Moving to the last problem, creating and sustaining positive changes. Particularly for creating positive habits, useful habits. Our habits define us. What we do on a routine basis defines our effectiveness. So if I can interview a very successful client person, I would be focusing, even for 5 minutes, I would be focusing on his routine. What time does he normally get up? How does he prepare himself? How does he train his body and mind? What are those small, simple things that he does on a regular basis that keeps him empowered to go for greater heights? And could that be a learning for others? That would be my focus. What we do on a routine basis defines our effectiveness. So our ability to create positive changes, that's very, very important. So how do we understand and initiate change? How do we define change? I got a very profound insight when from an NLP perspective, I found this is a very fantastic way to define change. And this is this. Normally, we equate, we have an unconscious relationship between our past and the future. When we believe that it is very difficult for us to change, unconsciously we say my past is equal to my future. We put a very strong equal to sign. When we come to a conclusion that I cannot change, it is very difficult for me to change. I cannot change. When I say that, unconsciously I'm equating my past and the future and saying my past is equal to the future. The equal sign is so strong. And change is simply saying that my future need not be equal to my past. Howsoever my past has been, I can choose to define, carve, decide a future that is conducive to my ambitions and long-term goals. So neurological levels of change, this is a fantastic framework. We'll quickly look at this. This is a pyramidal form. Where the lowermost is defined by environment. Where are we? In what environment are we operating? What is the behavior that I am doing in that particular environment? And as a result of my doing that behavior consistently, what are my skill sets and what are my capabilities? And based on my skill sets and capabilities, what are my belief systems? Remember, even it is said that even 3 experiences are sufficient to form a belief system. So based on, please understand, belief system is nothing but our meta view about what am I capable of, what can I do, what can I not do. The meta level of looking at our own capabilities is is a crux of the belief system. What is important to me in my life, what is not important to me in my life is a meta perspective of the meta perspective of what is important to me, what is not important to me is a value system. Your belief system says to you what you can do, what you cannot do. Your value system to you says to you that this is important for you, this is not important for you. So your belief system is a meta perspective about what is possible for you, what is not possible for you. Whereas your value system is a meta perspective of what is important to you, what is not important to you in our lives. In fact, we can sum up all our learnings into two things, beliefs and values. Apart from our technical knowledge, this is what we really learn. The next level is identity level. Your beliefs and value systems create your identity, who you are. There could be many superficial layers where we try and define our identity by the roles that we play, by the designations that we hold. But even beyond that, right, there could be a very strong identity element which gives rise to a strong sense of purpose, vision, and mission. So this is the neurological levels of change. Normally, right, the logic of changes, if a lower level changes, the upper level may change or may not change. If a higher level changes, the lower level will change. Let me go back. If the environment changes, there is a 50% chance, I would say, there is a possibility, not necessarily a 50%. If the environment changes, the behavior may or may not change. If the environment, the behavior changes, the skill or capabilities may develop. Because once the skills and capabilities develop, the belief systems may change or may not change. Likewise. So if a lower level changes, there is a possibility that the higher level may change or may not change. But whereas if a higher level changes, the lower level will change. That is the beauty of this framework. So that is why we say NLP works at the levels of beliefs and values. If you are able to change your beliefs and values, creating changes down the line becomes much more easier. So NLP works at the levels of beliefs and values. The more we are able to work on the levels of beliefs and values, the changes down become much more easier. And if you are able to work on the level of your identity, then it's really fantastic. And still higher, if you are able to work at the level of a purpose, vision, and mission, then that's great. For example, let's take a very simple example of exercising every day. Let's take this example. So I can choose to write. Normally, we choose to write. We have a particular environment. The environment may be conducive for us to do exercise consistently or may not. So sometimes we do, sometimes we do not. That is there. Right? So exercise as a behavior comes out. Sometimes we do, sometimes we do not. And over a period of time, doing the exercise becomes a part of a capability. And then we develop a belief system which says, I am a consistent exerciser. And then we understand the value of the exercise daily. And then we develop an identity, right? We develop an identity that I am an enthusiastic exerciser. We may stop at that. But when you are able to relate to this concept of exercising at a purpose level, and specifically at a value level, if you do exercise consistently, how it is going to be valuable to you down the line, maybe 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. Now I am, right, maybe in my mid-50s. But if I choose to exercise consistently, what is the value that I'll be getting? Maybe 15 years. Still I'll be mobile. Still I'll be able to help, right, my family members. I'll be able to help my clients. That's a very important value to me. Helping my clients and helping my caring and sharing with my family members, that's an important value to me. And for that to happen, I need to exercise. If you're able to connect this, the value which I'm going to get down the line, the motivation comes from that. And if I take it to a purpose level, right? So I believe, right, I'm making some a journey towards my spiritual experiences. I believe having a very high levels of spiritual experiences is the purpose of my life. And for that to happen, I need to have a healthy body. Without having a healthy body, I may not be able to have very deep spiritual experiences down the line. So once I'm able to connect with my purpose in this life of having a bigger, better spiritual experiences, then for me, exercising daily becomes very important. If you're able to connect with the purpose. For some, the purpose could be creating more value to the people of the world, the greater good. If they're able to connect with that purpose, their need for exercising daily, then that becomes a very strong motivation. So the question is, how are you able to connect the particular behavior, right? Preferably at a value level, and then more importantly at the purpose level. When you have a strong purpose and vision, the identity is defined, and from the identity, you can create your own value system and belief. That's also possible. The reverse journey is very empowering. And if you're really able to believe, right, developing the skills and capabilities becomes much easier, and the behavior becomes much consistent, and then the environment. The environment here, I define how you look at the world around you. From being purposeful, if you look at this very same house, the very same environment you are, from a different purpose level, the environment changes. So friends, right, creating changes at the level of purpose, identity, values, and beliefs, right, can be very, very, very effective. So moving forward, if I want to be a regular exerciser, how can I connect my daily exercising with a long-term value or purpose can be a very empowering process. So it could be about exercising. It could be about eating a healthy diet. Right? It could be as simple as allotting specific times for building your skills and capabilities. That is how you generate and sustain a positive change. So I'll just quickly summarize. We'll go for 5 more minutes. What we have been seeing so far is from confusion to clarity, from tentativeness to confidence. From confusion to clarity was the first problem, along with the solutions from tentativeness to confidence, from reaction to proaction, right? Ability to create a gap and create more choices, becoming aware, having a reasonable control of our emotions, trying to understand what is the message behind the emotion. That is the concept of being more proactive. And then from stagnation to purposeful, growth-oriented living, so that we are highly internally motivated. So personally, I have been increasingly finding that all my training and very specifically coaching programs are revolving around these frameworks. From confusion to clarity, from tentativeness to confidence, from reaction to proaction, from stagnation to purposeful, direction-oriented growth. So that's how I have labeled as 4 major problems and how to deal with them. So really, right, NLP can really make it happen. Now do start contemplating and applying these changes. We have come to the end of the webinar. Stay with me for a few minutes. 2 more minutes to start contemplating and applying these changes in your life. I do believe these perspectives, these insights which are gained from this webinar would have been really valuable to you. So as a next step in learning NLP further, I would like to inform you about a further paid learning opportunity with me. It's for people who are really interested to take this learning further. A further learning opportunity, those of you who are really interested in learning more deeply, I'm sure this webinar itself would have been of value to you. For people who can take it to a much more deeper and longer levels with me, can join me on an upcoming paid applied NLP webinar series. This will be an online webinar program over Zoom. I call this program Success from Within. So 5 batches are being over, and this is what is going to come next. This is the 6th batch. I have designed this program based on all my training programs, all my the feedbacks, the effectiveness of the training program. I have designed it to suit a webinar audience. Personally, I find this webinar audience, right, the webinar way of training and coaching very effective because it is small bite size. We do not cram the entire content in 2 days. You can take it much more slower. Of course, right? There are differences, but still I believe this bite-sized learning where we can take these learnings at a much more slower level, at a lower pace. This is more comfortable to us. With lots of time for activities, questions, and a deep dive exploration. I have designed this webinar programs like this. This program is mainly based on the NLP principles and practices. which I have personally found it to be very useful. Operating from an outcome frame instead of a blame frame. The purpose is really creating changes within to create changes outside. Right? That is the purpose. Focusing on individual strengths and opportunities to create maximum value in life based on the NLP belief. I firmly believe people already have all the resources that they need. People need not be fixed. They need not be prepared. All is required as a facilitation process that would bring them awareness and the ability to create choices. So this program will be based on that fundamental principle of NLP. The series has 4 sessions with the following modules and intended learning outcomes, well-formed outcomes, what you have been talking about the core problems, and confusion to clarity. Handling the challenges that prevent you from reaching the goals, from tentativeness to confidence, the second problem that we were talking about. Managing minds and moods from reaction to action. That's the key, very, I would say, very important. The ability to have a reasonable control of our mind states. The fourth one is the neurological levels of change from being stagnant to moving towards more purposeful, direction-oriented living. So specific learnings, NLP principles and practices, beliefs of excellence, the core 13 beliefs of excellence, the classic 13 beliefs of excellence, well-formed outcomes framework. I'll be working very closely to create well-formed outcomes for my participants. The human communication model, NLP human communication model, a fantastic framework where you can understand people much more clearly and reach them at their model of the world. I've been finding it very, very useful. The psychological filters, right? We have been talking about belief systems or generalization. There are other things which are called as deletions and distortions. The suffering points, where does the suffering comes from? And the utility value of generalizations, deletions, and distortions, and the unusefulness of generalizations and deletions and distortions. We look at both the sides of the coin. Very specific belief change works. 3 specific belief change works. NLP emotional intelligence framework, which are which are very much using the disassociation techniques. And very important framework of what is the emotion, what is the meaning, and what is the action. The emotion, meaning, action framework, which I find it highly valuable. The neurological levels of change, which we saw. The concepts of anchoring, very important, right? Remember the activities we did when I asked you to connect your thumb and the forefinger, that is an anchor. I would later want you to check it out, right? When you're at a relaxed state, I would want you to check out, right? By connecting your thumb and anchor and see whether you are able to access that particular levels of confidence. That's a concept of anchoring. When you do this particular activity which we did continuously for a few days with deep relaxation, accessing that resource and then anchoring that, I'm sure, right? You will be able to access those resources increasingly just by firing that anchor. This is a body-mind connection, using your body to access that emotion whenever and wherever you want. Right? So I would want you to explore that. The more deeper you go into your relaxation, the more clear you are able to access that resource. Then when you have a very unique anchor, then a neural connection is established between this particular gesture and your ability to access those resources. That's how anchoring works. We'll be talking about two techniques: golden circle of excellence, that is a technique, and the swish technique for creating positive habits. These are the 2 techniques which I'll be doing, demonstrating, and guiding you to do that. And an individual one-to-one, this is a very important part of the program. Individual one-to-one session, right? One-to-one deep diving session, which could be around 60 to 90 minutes to create a very specific strategic action plan. I believe this is where a big chunk of effectiveness of the program comes into existence. And as another bonus, 6 months access to my NLP mastermind programs. I have a mastermind group where I do programs, right? The free webinar programs where we go very deeper, and maybe the participants will be given access to this NLP mastermind program for a 6 months time. The bonuses, right? One deep dive coaching session, the value is approximately 3,500, and the one-to-one preparation session will be between the 2 weekends, right? I prefer that because the first 2 modules are very, very important so that I can understand how much we're able to relate to the first 2 modules and develop an action plan, which will become much more possible in the second weekend, in the third and fourth modules. So 6 months free membership, right, worth 5,000 to my online, offline NLP community, NLP Inner Circle, NLP Mastermind Group led by me. So number of seats, so this is the only limitation, friends. The number of participants is limited to 8 right now because I find to limit the participants to 8 for maximum effectiveness using my current skill sets and capabilities. So this is the only limitation which I offer, which I talk about, right? Which I bring about. I don't have any other, I would say, pressure points. The only limitation is age. So, who is this webinar for? The webinar is for individuals, executives, business owners, and faculty members who are very serious and committed about personal and professional excellence. Right? This is only for people who really want to bring out their excellence. This is for people who want to take ownership for creating value in their lives. Right? I want you to be like people who get their hands dirty, people who want to enter the arena and play, not just being passive observers and allow this phenomenon called as life to happen to you. So I would want people who can enter the arena and play. This is a pre-qualification for me. I really want people who are really committed to get into the arena and play. It's just simply sitting in the auditorium and watch, right? So this is for people who want to take ownership for creating value in their life. This is for people who can truly act on the learnings from the program, right? This is again very, very important. The program focuses about self-awareness and creation of choices. But it is you who need to, as participant, you need to act on those choices. I cannot do that. So you need to get your hands dirty. You need to have a level of commitment to act out those choices that have been made. Taking into consideration the ecology part, it should be well thought out choice, and it's the ecology part, the well-formed outcome should be made very clear. Taking that also into consideration, the acting out part should be done by you, and you need to take the responsibility for that. Remembering, knowing is not knowing, doing is actually knowing. So this is for people who want to be truly aligned to their vision and purpose, who can really take massive action, right? Who can really start acting it out, start getting out of their comfort zone, start moving towards their purpose and vision, handle the risk in between, and take responsibility for their action and behavior. This is for people who can understand that the best business in the world is the business of working on ourselves. So the pricing, the investment for this webinar is rupees 12,000. Also, please note that the seats are limited to a maximum of 8. The registration will be on a first come, first served basis only. If you are such a committed person, do fix up a free discovery session with me. You need not pay immediately. I don't go for that model. I want you to make a very conscious, thought about decision, right? I don't want to put pressure on you. So if you're really interested, do fix up a free discovery session with me through the link in the chat box, right? I'll just share the link with you. You need a Google form. You need to set up a discovery session with you. It will be 15 to 20 minutes where I can really understand your objectives and qualify myself, whether I can help you. I need to qualify myself. And then I also need to understand that we are a mutual fit, right? So that this program has big possibilities for working, right? For being effective. So it should be a fit for us. If we then feel that we are a right fit, then I shall send the payment link to the first come 8 participants, and that's how this goes about, right? So only when we are able to be comfortable, when we are understanding that we are a mutual fit, then we can take it further. Then I'll send you a payment link, and then you can take the payment. Please note that the number of participants is limited to 8 on a first come first served basis, right? So dear friends, I'll just share this link for setting up. Share it here. Use this just to set up a discovery session with me. Right? You can choose this to set up a discovery session with me. So people who are really interested, people who are really committed, I want you to respond. Once you set up the appointment, right, I'll be calling you. Kindly respond, and we can make this discovery session as fruitful, as useful as possible. Thank you very much. Thank you really for the really very much for spending your time here from the base of my heart. I wish you all the best. I really believe this program has been valuable to you. So thank you, dear friends. Thank you very much. Wishing you all the best. Thank you.